White and Joe Gutlein for Golden Dome. They're laser focused on delivering for our country and understanding where the risks are and addressing those risks in terms of schedule and keeping pressure on costs. And that arrangement, from my perspective, the organizational arrangement of a direct report portfolio manager with a direct report to the deputy secretary has been very powerful in keeping our foot on the gas for delivering the capability, as you said, on schedule and on budget. And I acknowledge there's been significant challenges there in the past.
No, thank you, Admiral. And I appreciate you reiterating that. I think it's incredibly important. I know that we continue to place additional pressures on your shoulders, but those portfolio managers as well. But we as Congress, we also need to keep the pressure on those primes and others that are engaged in this process, understanding that we have limited resources and we absolutely need to modernize our nuclear triad. So pressure all the way around, including here on the Hill on members in Congress. If we can turn just briefly to SpaceCom as well, we have seen with the operations that are ongoing in Iran, we have seen then counterattacks coming from Iran. And General Whiting, we saw this incredible shot fired from Iran towards Diego Garcia. So what we are learning from this, that missile has traveled over 2,500 miles, and it really just underscores the growing range of weapons and ballistic missiles coming from our adversaries. And what can we do then in that scenario, and how do we adapt within SpaceCom to make sure that our missile warning architecture is able to account for these long-range threats like this recent attempted strike on Diego Garcia?
Senator, thank you for highlighting that. At Diego Garcia, we have critical space command capabilities for our satellite command and control, as well as space domain awareness. So our missile warning architecture is absolutely the foundational capability that allows our joint force and our national leadership to know about those kinds of launches. Today, we do a very good job, in fact, best in the world, of detecting those kinds of launches. But ma'am, you asked about what kind of evolutions do we need. The Congress has funded several additional missile warning capabilities that are coming. There'll be a low Earth orbit tracking constellation, a medium Earth orbit tracking constellation, and then a modernized strategic constellation in geosynchronous orbit. As those continue to come online, it will allow us to track those missiles and have full custody all the way until they're impacting, and that allows us to tip and cue missile defenses to be even more successful. So those are important investments, ma'am, and I would ask for the Congress's continued support.
Wonderful. And my time has expired. Thank you again, gentlemen, very much.
Thank you, Senator Ernst. Senator Scott, it seems that you touched base 7.2 seconds before Senator Cotton, so you're recognized right now.
Thank you. That's the first time.
Call for instant replay on that one.
Can't imagine that happened. All right. Well, thank both of you for being here. Let me start and talk about something that's really important to Florida. Space dominance. It's a pretty big issue. I got to serve as governor of Florida for 8 years and now senator. So we prioritized and put a lot of effort into the Space Coast. It was right. I became governor right after manned flight was shut down. So it's a big issue. We try to make sure that the Space Coast, there's an aerospace hub and a model of what happens when we use public-private partnerships to help America reach its exploration goals. So unfortunately, we're not the only one trying to do this. We got adversaries like Communist China. So I'm very appreciative the president has prioritized national security to include space. And I think the discussion today is really important. So General Whiting, can you talk about and explain to the American people why space is so important to our national security, and how adversaries like Communist China, who is a complete adversary, can use it to undermine our country?
Senator, thank you for the question. Today, as we sit here in 2026, The entire United States Joint Force is sized with an assumption they will have access to space capabilities through all levels of conflict. We do not have the force structure to fight the way we did before the space age when our systems were not space enabled. We didn't have precision strike. We didn't have global navigation, global communications. And so, Senator, it's vital that we defend those capabilities in space so that we can continue to deliver them against the threats that are now arrayed against us. And we've seen just a dramatic increase in the threats over the last several years from China and from Russia. And so that's why at U.S. Space Command, we say it's a moral responsibility to defend our space capability so that we can continue to support the rest of the Joint Force.
Can you talk about the importance of public and private partnerships at Florida's Space Coast?
Yes, Senator. I've been an observer of that, not directly involved in it, but it's pretty remarkable to me how that public-private partnership is able to deliver infrastructure at Cape Canaveral and at Patrick Space Force Base to ensure that those ranges, those launch ranges, that launch range has been able to keep up with the dramatic increase in commercial launch tempo that we've seen. And I think it's true that that range has not been a constraint on commercial launch growing, and a big part of that is not only the government investment, but the commercial and private investment that we've seen through Space Florida.
Yeah, when I was governor, we put up a lot of money, but we were able to get a lot of companies to come in there and spend a lot of money. So Blue Origin and Boeing, SpaceX, a lot of them spent a lot of money. Sir Admiral, as we're all aware, the very real threat of adversaries like Communist China, it's not just in space. Communist China is also actively focused on dominance around the world. It's critical our nation is prepared to not only project peace through strength, but also active necessary. It's no secret the Navy's had some struggles building ships on time and on budget. Secretary Phelan, I know, is working hard to try to change that. Can you talk about the importance of the Columbia-class submarine and why you need that asset now?
The Columbia-class submarine represents our assured second strike capability for our nation, so it doesn't get any more important or necessary than that, Senator. And so that submarine will be world-class, decades ahead of what China or Russia can produce in terms of technology, quietness, and capability. It's a critical capability for our deterrent. And with the appointment of Vice Admiral Goucher as a direct report portfolio manager, it will get laser focus, which it already has, to deliver that capability for our nation.
So the fact that it's late, does it impact the Navy's resourcing decisions?
The Navy is continuing to fund Columbia, so it's had no negative impact on funding for Columbia and the priority and delivery. It remains the Navy